But let's talk a little bit about that using data to secure topic.
Yeah.
Where do you see the opportunity in the market?
You see, that is, I mean, you mentioned Splunk earlier when we were discussing. You see a lot of companies now which have really changed the ways essentially security happens. Or I can even broaden the topic further to your earlier conversation about risk management. When you think of managing your risk, that is essentially a data-driven exercise right now. In the past, that was either human expertise-driven or process-driven. I think increasingly we've seen that is becoming data-driven. A great example is, think of just what is happening even at the network security level. In the past, it used to be you had specific devices, like routers and firewalls, etc., from which you collected logs, and you pre-coded what you were looking for, right? And you basically said, this is what a security attack looks like. And then you looked for patterns that matched that pre-coded knowledge that you had. Now that world is changing very quickly, even at the network level. You basically now collect logs not only from all the network devices, from applications, from your Active Directory kind of interface, user access. You pretty much collect all of that information, and then you use big data techniques to find the pattern, rather than say, hey, I already know the pattern of attack, and I'm just going to go look for that pattern. I say, I don't know the pattern of attack, right? The assumption right now is, I have all this word, and the attacker only needs one way to get in. Therefore, I don't know what way they are using to get in. So let me get the data and see what the data tells me in terms of what might be abnormal, and then use that to find if it's really a security vulnerability, right? That to me is how data is being used to change the world of security, and that's happening in fraud detection, that is happening in cybersecurity. It is happening in, for example, insider threat detection. So in a variety of areas where it all used to be, I would code a pattern and then I would go look for data that fit that pattern. It's now like, let me get the data and identify what the pattern might be, because there's way too many ways to get in for a malicious person, and so I can't predict what way they will use. So it's the mindset. The mindset has changed, and the technology is now available to make that happen.
Where's Informatica playing a role there in the data aggregation part?
Yeah, yes, exactly. So we play a role, we are not the analytics provider. We will work with any analytics provider, we'll work with any kind of visualization technology or user-oriented technology that a customer wants to use. We are a data infrastructure provider. Right, so it's really data aggregation, data integration, cleansing, and getting a 360-degree view of data, so that if you identify, hey, this is the area that I need 360-degree view of, I can get that, and then that can then be consumed by the applications. That's really the role that we play.
What are some of the biggest challenges to get all this data fabric into place in big companies?
The challenges are, right now, for example, this is all the different types of data. It's not only structured data, but machine data, unstructured data, semi-structured data, etc. So there's a variety of different data types. Second is the latencies. Some data you need to get in batch, some is in streaming, some real time, etc. Third is the location of the data, right? On-premise versus cloud versus some combination of the two, and making sure you get the access. And the fourth is, once you get all these different data types, how do you make sure that you process it efficiently? Because you don't want to get data and store it all in one place, and then that becomes it could become a security hole by itself. So it's like, how do you process it most efficiently for all these different data types and keep up with different technologies? Think of NoSQL, for example, changing so rapidly.
Yeah.
How do you build for a customer, how do you build an abstraction layer so that, while you can make use of the new technologies, you're not, you don't go out of fashion, or you're not stuck with the wrong technology. It's helping the customer strike that balance. So those are really the challenges for us.
Do you see that the data volume is a bigger problem, or the data variety? Are companies challenged by the exponentially fast-growing number of data sources, or is each data source just becoming bigger?
Yeah, I think it depends on the company. I mean, I've talked to customers where both holds. For example, we have customers who are now saying, look, rather than going to traditional data providers which are not collecting as many data sources, we want to go to as many sources as possible. I mean, I'll give you an example. The Weather Channel, for example, is a customer, historically, to predict the weather and to provide weather forecasts, they go to the government sources and get some data sources from there, etc. But now what's happening is there is a ton of available data. For example, every town, every city publishes certain weather forecasts and source data that they can use, right? So for such companies, the volume is huge, right? But the data types are relatively still the same, the volume. Now, on the other hand, if you think of someone like an insurance company today, and they are trying to use, for example, new types of techniques to predict risk and manage risk. So now suddenly they're getting some IoT type of data from sensors that may be deployed. They may be working with the reinsurers who are providing certain data. They have their own mainframe systems which have certain data. So for them, variety is the problem, right? So it's not as much, the volume is manageable, variety is the problem. So I think we're still in the early days. So I think we're definitely seeing all these different kinds. And I think that's part of the challenge in building. I don't know if you can build a universal platform that can handle, I mean, that's very difficult to believe, but who knows? There are some promising technologies that seem to be very, flexible in being able to do that. Yeah.
From your perspective, where's the biggest growth opportunity for your company?
We look at it as the intersection of what's happening with the cloud and big data, right? So if the movement, not only the movement of data between on-premise and cloud and within cloud to cloud, but also just the sheer growth of data in the cloud. This is a big opportunity. And if you look at the big data world, I think a lot of what happens in the big data world from our perspective, the value of, especially for enterprise customers, the value of big data comes when they can derive insights by combining data that they have from their own systems, etc., with either third-party data, customer-generated data, machine data that they can put together. So that intersection is good for us. Again, we are a data infrastructure provider. So that's where, those are the two big areas where we see opportunity.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you that really enriching more and more data will give you, more context and therefore better insights.